making Prometheus and Pandora, this project, it was just one of those things where I knew it would be a big project, but I didn't know that it was going to be as big a project as it was. Because while I was making it, it was also the fact that 2 or 3 of my very close friends and associates were dying, or had died. And part of how I dealt with their death was to use the grief as a creative source. So the easiest thing to do was like to use it as therapy and to stay in the studio. I've always got a lot of ideas that are of interest to me. So I can work a lot if I have the time to work a lot. This was a situation where I knew that it was going to be a big project, but the project became bigger just because of all the tragedies in the mourning that was happening around, particularly 2 or 3 of my friends who, you know, I was close to them spiritually. And when they died, it was just kind of, I just felt the only way to really continue was to continue working, because working was the greatest form of therapy that I understood, as well as a way to both take advantage of the situation of grief as well as avoiding it. It was kind of that double opportunity to avoid focusing on the grief while using the energy of it at the same time. So it just became more of an emotional project. It started off as more of an intellectual project as far as the idea I had for it and what I wanted to achieve with it. But of course, as life interfered more with the process, it just became of necessity more emotional. And it was also a peak experience for me. Like climbing a mountain, and the mountain was so high that once I had gotten to the top of the mountain, part of the great relief of the climb was realizing that I never had to climb a mountain like that again. I just realized that every life has an arc and the curves and you know, peaks and valleys, and that I didn't see myself having to climb as high a mountain again. Just because I had done it. It was just one of those things where whatever excuse you find to do it, whatever motivation you find to do it, you realize that you had to do something that outrageous. You know, because there were at least 2 or 3 points in the project where I felt that I was pushing myself to my own kind of death or something. I was just almost punishing myself. I'm the kind of person that when I'm not working, I can be quite pigro. And that's something I've learned because I tend to push myself a lot, you know, but when I'm working, I tend to just be very relentless and pushing and pushing and pushing and not always listening to my body when it needs to stop. So I'm one of those type of artists that rewards themselves with work, but also punishes themselves with work as well. Because there's always gotta be something I'm doing. So it was just it was a very creative time. It was a very powerful time emotionally, but it was also very strange because, you know, people were dying who were my age or just slightly older or slightly younger. And it was just too much. In the last 5 years, it seems like a ridiculous amount of people that I've loved have died. And it just became this thing like, it didn't even make sense anymore. The positive things that came out of it was the idea that there were things that we hold on to as warriors, that at some point you hear the whistle, you hear the bell go off in the game or what have you, whatever metaphor. You hear the fire alarm go off, the alarm clock, and you don't have to hang on to it anymore. You can just let it go. Every generation has their fight and their sword. And there were a particular couple of friends that died, and I realized that my own fight was over. That the part that I was hanging on to, the part that I was still being faithful and loyal to, my part in the fight, that I had done my part, that I could turn it over to someone else now. Somebody else younger can pick up that sword and fight the fight. That I could focus on what I had created to sustain my life and to move my life forward. And that I didn't have to fight those fights anymore. And sometimes that's what death does. It liberates your friends from their suffering, but it also liberates you while you're living from the things that you're still holding on to, that you don't have to hold on to anymore, because, you know, I've been a faithful warrior and I fought my fight for as long as I needed to. But at some point, it's not even about letting go. It's about realizing that the fight is not even going on anymore. You know, sometimes you also have to realize that you're still running a race that's over, but you're so used to running that that's all you know. All you know is running. And so it's naive to say, oh, well, the race is over, you can stop now. Oh, okay, thank you. Life doesn't work like that. If all you've known is fighting and fighting and fighting to defend your position, to defend your rights, to exist as you are, to defend yourself, you know, this is also the nature of many activists, is that at some point they wake up and realize the thing that I was fighting for, I already have these rights. We've won. But I'm still fighting. I'm still a fighter. You know, it's like the great American comedian Robin Harris said that his wife was so mean that she slept with her fist balled up like this. You know, in case somebody started something when she was asleep. You know, she just wake up fighting. And that's kind of what it's like. It's like, you know, you have to be reminded that not only do you not have to keep climbing this mountain, but it's even your mountain. So it's not going anywhere, and you don't have to keep climbing. You can just relax and rest and stop.
You're a top man on scene. You don't think life comes in between. But hey, she's just 17. She feels that she's a worldly girl. But man, you've been around the world. She is just, don't worry, daddy's pearl. Even though there's nothing I can say to cheat you in nature anyway, let her down easy. Her heart is on a dime. Let her down easy, and you'll grow up in time. In her strawberry eyes, the way she sees you signifies that she's susceptible to your velvet lies. But if you must lay her down, may her butterscotch glow be her dressing gown, and please do not lead her on when you leave town. Even though there's nothing I can say to cheat you in nature anyway, let her down easy. Her heart is on the line. Let her down easy, and you'll grow up in time. She's a woman now, with a daughter to make her proud. in her crayon world of paper clouds. She still remembers you, the first boy that she gave it to, and she laughed at how little then she knew. Even though there's nothing I can say to cheat you in nature anyway, let her down easy. Her heart is on the line. Let her down easy, and you'll grow up in time. Let her down easy. Her heart is on the line. Let her down easy, and you'll grow up in time. In time. In time.
That's what happened when Prince died, when George Michael died, when Tom Petty died, all in the same space of time, within a relatively short space of time. These three people in particular, and David Bowie, who was someone who had been a mentor to me in my early career. I had the chance to be befriended by Master Bowie when I was a young blade coming up in the industry, because we knew some of the same people, and he kind of took me under his wing and shared with me what he could, considering where I was in my situation as well. So it's like too many people that had been close to my own psychology as an artist had died. I was very, very close to Prince. Like I said, I was very close to George. Tom Petty had been a hero of mine, who also I had become good friends with very early in my situation when we both lived in California. And he was a big hero of mine. And George Michael was also someone that made sure that he used his friendship to encourage. He and I had a similar trajectory, so he kind of understood that what the record company was taking me through was very similar to what he was going through, that our paths were very much the same. And, you know, at one point we had the same lawyer, and our fight with the record industry was pretty much the same fight. So he was also someone who took the time to be very encouraging of my work, and to always, you know, let me know that he was always a big fan and very supportive. So, you know, the rest, everyone else was older than I was except for George. George, I think, was 2 years younger than myself. So, you know, when he died, it was just, everything was just very much like, what the fuck is going on, you know? And then, what does this mean for me? And my own father, my biological father, died when he was 56. So there was just a corridor of time where everybody was dying, and I thought, well, then I must be next. And it was very confusing because, you know, I don't have a fear of death. So it's kind of dangerous in a way, because that means that, you know, sometimes your death wish gets in the way. It might take over. It was only after I got married and had my sons that I developed a healthy fear of not living. You know what I mean? But it wasn't, it was still that the reality is that, you know, you see death as not something to be afraid of, but you also see leaving before your job is finished. That becomes the fear. Not death, but leaving before finishing your mountain, before finishing your job, and before maybe the people around you are emotionally ready to accept you're leaving. Those things become more important to balancing your psyche and your stability. But you know, when those people died, it was just a very confusing time.
Is Levi driving you home? Is Levi driving you home?
The more consciousness you receive, which is to say, the more you take your life experience and your courage, and you live life and you see things and you're willing to see things as they are, the more you are always breaking little chains. You know, because I'm still a slave. I'm just not a slave to what I was a slave before. I'm not a slave to the industry, but I'm still a slave to other things. I'm still breaking chains and realizing that I can be more free in this way to express my life, more free in that way. And so no matter how innovative someone else says you are, you still know that within yourself, you still have many limitations that you're still looking to free yourself from. I mean, even as a songwriter, I still respect, as innovative as I try to be, I still respect the fact that I have a form, that songs tend to have a form and a formula if people are to adopt them in a certain way. So even that is a chain I want to break at some point. Even that, I'm still looking to write a song with no form. That's just a pure song. There's always something more to move towards. There's always a new chain to move beyond and go, okay, now we're broken those chains.
Welcome to the madhouse. It used to be a playhouse. Prometheus and Pandora were wild.
When you have other artists that die, what they encourage you to question all of those things. They encourage you to say, well, if I have some more country songs inside of me, then why am I not doing them? Well, what is my excuse? Is it because I'm afraid of confusing people? Is it because, all of the things all of the excuses that every day provides, as long as you're willing to look for them and to accept them, every day comes equipped with all the things that you can say, okay, the reason I didn't do it today is because of this. The reason I didn't do it tomorrow is because of that. But at some point, the death of your friends pushes your idea of your mortality, okay? So, you know, just recently we had another friend who had a family member who died unexpectedly, as often happens with death. And what it does cause you to realize is that we all have our arguments. We have our arguments with ourselves, with life, with each other. But in these moments you realize it's not important. Our arguments are only important in so much as they keep us engaged. They may keep us interested in our life.
Rage to help your mind turn the page and raise your spirit high and keep yourself alive.
Ultimately, we don't know how much time we have. We don't know how much time we're going to have to pursue this idea that we keep putting off. You know, my album of country songs, my album of Frank Sinatra covers. Whatever is the thing that you keep putting off because you keep using the excuse that you're not ready, or time is not ready, or people are not ready, because people are never ready for anything until they're ready for it, and they're not ready for it until you present it. You know, and so, you know, that's one of the reasons why Prometheus and Pandora, it was like my fuck it album, where you run out of any excuses to do the things that you need to do right now. So there are all these songs at any given moment that are saying, what about me? Or what about me? And you might go, well, that's a bit too rock right now, or that's a bit too funky, or whatever. I'm focusing on this direction or this thing. And you just at some point just realize that don't become like that. Don't be that person. You know, follow the moment, follow the mood. If the mood says, I want to make a record that sounds more like this, Always follow the moment, the inspiration. Otherwise, it's just best to listen to the songs and the ideas. And again, it was a time where, you know, if it was a sad song, it was a sad song. If it was a happy song, it was a happy song. It wasn't about, I just want these things. It was everything, say yes to life. Say yes to everything in life. So the solar things, the lunar things, the depressing things, you know, the blues is not just about being sad. The blues is about staying in the moment and you realizing that the moment that you have a moment that's not the blues is a great moment. Prometheus and Pandora definitely came when I felt the liberation of the death of your heroes. Somehow, when one of your heroes died, it's like your masters, they die, and they leave you something, you inherit something from them. But you also inherit the idea that you don't have the same pressure anymore because they're not watching you in the same way. So you are more free now, you know, and this is the way that I felt during the project. At some point, it just became the only thing I can do is just to let go of all restrictions and to go more towards that.
Patiently waiting for you. Even if I'm wrong, I have learned that faith can bring me power. And I have grown strong, standing in the stillness of the hour. If I get enough lamps and symphony, my sympathy and my empathy will come through.
So the next project is called Pandora's Playhouse because it's a continuation of the story of Prometheus and Pandora, now more from her perspective, coming from her side of the brain, which is even more wild and even more unpredictable and even more just taking us on a journey that, you know, when we think of a woman, we think of a passionate journey that the mood can change, the mood can shift and go from one place to another place and be inclusive of all of the experience of a woman's life, of a woman's emotions. And I want to take advantage of this as an artist. And so there was many ideas that still wanted to be explored from Prometheus and Pandora. So Pandora's Playhouse, the next project, gives me the opportunity to continue to pursue this liberation, this freedom.
I know that it ain't been easy. I can feel your pain. I feel your pain. I know that it ain't been easy. I feel your pain. Here we go again.
The point of any artist, of every form of art, of every form of discipline, is at some point to mature into understanding that until one has complete control of one's art form, then one doesn't really have complete control of the art. And it's not about control as far as taking it away from industry. It's because we're all products of industry. The point is to take it away from places and situations where it doesn't belong. And if I were a painter, it would not be a question of why do you choose to paint alone, or why do you choose to paint what you see and not what a committee of people see. When there are those type of artists, there are those type of creative people, but an artist, as I understand it, as I have been moved to define it, is someone who pursues the vision that they have for what they are creating, for what they wish to create, for what they hope to create. And a part of an artist's vision has to be to provide what the artist themselves wants to see and doesn't see. So, you know, for me, this meant that all of the fathers that I had musically, all of the different bands and the different artists who had a great impact on me, I was able to realize that I was the son of all of these different fathers. And I didn't have to make a choice anymore as to which father I would recognize or which mother are you going to recognize. It's just to say that an artist is a Frankenstein monster made of this, of that, of this, and this influence, and their time and their place, and the circumstances that they had to process all of this information, and then the opportunity that they have as they mature to realize the truth of this. Because if you have to always turn your attention away from the plant that is growing to pay attention to and to pursue the plant that should be growing, then you're always caught between two worlds. And this can be a creative space, being caught between two worlds for a while. But over time, you can't inhabit two spaces. You have to trust that the most important place for you to be as an artist is where you are now, is what you're doing now.
Let's get gone, real gone. Gone, gone. Flat broken city, the streets are alive. She left without my pity. Freeze frame around. Sandcastles are tumbling, it's scattered by the air. And now that I'm slumming, she's out of my hair. Thought I loved her until I lost her, but now I'm glad she's gone. Flashback to the meadow, a teardrop expands. It shook loose from the shadow and dried in the sand. Cash back on the dollar since I broke the spell. I lost my dog collar and the catalyst as well. I thought I loved her until I lost her, but now I'm glad she's gone.
Being an artist, a part of the process of creating art is to always be in pursuit of the impossible. Is to always be in pursuit of something that you understand. It's probably not completely attainable, but you're still willing to put yourself out every time to pursue this impossibility, to pursue this vision, and to pursue all of the questions that come with this process. So it's not a question of why do you choose to do your art the way that you do your art. It's just a question of at some point it is inevitable that an artist matures and realizes that the best way to bring out the most in who they are is to be completely independent of what the market is asking for. Because a market is always going to ask for what reflects a market in any given moment.
See a girl, she's gone, gone. Assassinate me with your quarrels, annihilate me with your morals. I don't really want your laurels, I wanna breathe. I gather that you're here to kill me. If I were not black, you'd feel me. So I will scream until you hear me. I wanna breathe.
The type of artist that I was inspired to be is an artist that understands that you can stand outside of time and be influenced by time at the same time, and not worry about what the market wants, but to only pursue the passion inside of you, the thing, to pursue the work that's inside of you, and to trust that what you are as an artist can only be provided for by you. And if you pursue your vision, this is always going to be true. If you pursue the market, then you're pursuing the same chicken that all the other foxes are running after.
I'm a dog and you're a flea. I wanna breathe.
generation is like what happens when you have a family. If you have a father who wanted to be a dancer, but his father didn't want him to be a dancer, then he suppresses this. He pushes this dream down. But then he has a son, and then the son wants to be a dancer. Because at some point, someone has to realize the dream of the previous that has been pushed away, the dream deferred. This is a part of the whole family experience, is that, you know, at some point I woke up and realized that the dream I was living in my last life was not my dream. It was perhaps my mother's dream. It was perhaps my father's dream. But it wasn't my dream. And then I had to wake up to what was my dream and start living my dream. Because if I didn't, then I was gonna pass it on to my children, and then the dream would haunt them. You know, and a dream haunts you if you choose to live it. A dream haunts you if you choose not to live it. It's still what drives you. It is still the thing that makes you crazy. So the challenge of every generation is that, you know, there were decisions that our previous generation made, where maybe the sacrifice for commercial considerations was there were certain explorations or certain motivations that they pushed away and said, okay, well, we will let the next people deal with this. We will let the next generation deal with this. And I feel that for the generation of mine, there was this difficult situation where you're coming after the Beatles, you're coming after the Stones, you're coming after, Sly and the Family Stone, you're coming after Jimi Hendrix, you're coming after Led Zeppelin, you're coming after certain standards that have been set, and it's a great standard. You're coming after this classic rock and this classic music that has been established, and you feel like, you know, Beethoven, after Beethoven had to follow Haydn and Mozart, there is a certain sense of frustration that what is left for me to do? You know, these masters have done everything. So I imagine if you were a band coming after the Beatles, you must have felt a certain frustration that what can I do that I would be allowed to do to move past this or what has already been done. So this was the challenge of Beethoven, was to write in the language of the men who had come before him in his own way until he was able to start writing his own language. And so that was the challenge of our generation, is like, how do you follow all of this stuff? How do you follow, you know, James Brown, and how do you follow Rod Stewart, and how do you follow the people who have done a certain thing the way that you've always wanted to see it done? I remember when I was very young, there was a vinyl album, an LP of Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding at Monterey. And one side was Otis Redding, and the other side was Jimi Hendrix. And it was just both of them at Monterey. And I just remember for a while getting into the record and just hearing them back to back. And at some point you make the connection that, I realized much later that at some point a connection is made between, that's what I want to do, is I want to make Otis Redding and Jimi Hendrix one situation and create this thing. And that's what happens, is that you realize, okay, at some point you realize that's your sword, that's what you're going to do. Because you know what you were born to do very early, but then you don't know what is your calling, what are you called to do. I remember when I first heard a Prince, Master Prince, when I was in junior high school, because he was 4 years older than myself. And I remember that, you know, if you grew up with a question of whether or not you should be, you know, more James Brown or more Rolling Stones, you know, or more, you know, Parliament, Funkadelic, you know, or more, you know, like I said, Rod Stewart, you know, or Stevie Wonder or Stevie Winwood. You know, with Prince, the question was, okay, you can be all of these things, because it was time. It was inevitable that a generation is born after all of these great artists, and you're going to bear a resemblance to these particular artists. So, you know, I can remember, you know, just realizing that this is what I wanted to do, and I want to sound like Rod Stewart. I want to have the thing in my voice that he has in his voice. So how do I do this? What do I need to do? So, you know, when I was a certain age, I realized that I needed to take one of his records and go into a closet, a broom closet, and take a broom and use it as a microphone stand and just sing to his records until I beat my voice in the shape of my hero, of my idol. And then, of course, you know, he drew, Rod Stewart then drew me back to people like Sam Cooke, who were his heroes. And again, you know, you're listening to all of these things, and you're listening to the Beatles, and you're listening to, you know, Nile Rodgers and Chic. You're just listening to all of the things that have influenced you. Aretha Franklin, you know, Hank Williams and country music, and, you know, everything you understand, this is what's going to take to make you who you are. And also, you know, I can remember being maybe 17 or 18 years old, and I was in my car driving to my boxing gym when I used to box, and I remember hearing Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Refugee for the first time, the song Refugee. And I remember one of those moments where I had to pull the car over to the side of a bridge. It was a St. John's Bridge in Central Florida. I can remember very vividly pulling over because, again, I heard someone who was from the same state that I was. So that was a huge influence. He was from Gainesville, where I had relatives as well. So there was this connection. I could hear the British invasion in his music, his sound. I could hear the Southern gospel. I could hear that he was from the South. I could hear everything that he was in that record. And what a thrilling combination it was. So those moments also are like hearing your own future. You kind of understand that what you are has to be something similar, something that is not trying to follow the other categories, the other marketing plans, but something that has to have something created to suggest this is what this is unique, this is what this time and place is. You know, our art shapes us, and before we start sculpting our art is sculpting us to be that which can receive it and which can project it. And I just knew that I couldn't listen to all of the cliches and all of the conventional wisdom that says, you know, with this kind of voice, you should be focused on these kinds of things. The concept of should has always fucked with me really hard, and it's really been something that I understand. You cannot invent yourself. You cannot feel that you have the right to invent yourself. And an artist, this is what one of the fundamental rights you must give yourself, is the right to invent yourself and to reinvent yourself. And if you're going to do that, you can't take the word should seriously. Should is just one of those ways that you push a thing back into a space that you're comfortable with. And for me, there's a point where an artist cannot afford to be comfortable with where the people believe that you are. You have to always be willing to challenge where even your fans think you belong. You know, not to do it only to do it, but when it's time to move past the last thing that you've projected, you can't let should stay in the way. That, you know, since you sing like this, then you should not make instrumentals. But that doesn't make sense, because if I'm a musician, I should make the music I'm inspired to make. And to say that because I'm a singer, that I should always be limited by this conception is to acknowledge that I'll never go as far as I can to make a contribution as an artist.
Listen, flashback to the early 80s, the good and everything. If you were lucky with the ladies, the magic they bring. They said you didn't need the money, but you always need the money. You knew someone to do someone right, who knew someone superstar. Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you leave? Where did you leave? Where did you leave? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Say you don't need the money, but you always need the money. Now your hands will wait for you. The one you play, the little ones bite your image. That's your working. They said you didn't need the money, but you always need the money. You knew someone who knew someone who knew someone superstar. Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Why did you leave? Why did you leave? Why did you leave? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? They say you don't need the money, but you always need the money. Superstar, where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you leave? Where did you leave? Where did you leave? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? You say you don't need the money, but you always need the money. Right, just come on, Randy. Yeah, bitches, come on now. Come on, get it. Get it. Get it, Arizona. Come on, we ain't too old yet. No, get it. Put some dick into it. Come on, hey, hey. Francesca Morandi, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Why did you leave? Why did you leave? Why did you leave? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? Say you don't need the money, but you always need the money. They say you don't need the money, but you always need the money.
I understood very early that it didn't, whatever was other people's definition of soul music, whatever other people's definition of rock music, it was to understand that these musics are not finished being defined, you know. And critics and musicians and artists, we get very possessive when we say, though, this is country music, or that's what country music is, or that's what punk music is. But the music says, I'm not finished. The music says it's arrogant for you to say, this is what punk music is, or for you to say, this is what rock music is. What you're doing is soul rock music or rock or anything. It's to say, again, it's the music stands up and says, but who says I'm finished? You know, I'm not just Elvis. I'm not just Chuck Berry. I'm not just the Stones. I'm not just Faith No More. You know, I'm not just, you know, Migos. I'm everything in every color turning into the next thing, turning into the next thing. That's what I am. And I'm always moving because I'm always living and I'm always alive. And so just as much as I have a side of my nature that can be expressed only in electronic terms, I also have a side of myself still growing that can only be expressed through organic music, through organic instruments, through things that people can pick up and hit and slap and make a sound come out of. So it is just to say that I understood really early that these lizards, these chameleons exist where they're always mutating and they're always growing and listening to what the music is becoming, listening to what the art form is becoming, you know, and are willing. An artist is also, by my definition and understanding, someone that is willing to continue to defy what is the last definition of being an artist, and to go with where is the next definition, or where is the next place I'm interested to say, this is art. So, yes, I can look at a Leonardo and look at the great Renaissance artists and say, wow, that is art. But I can also look at a lot of stuff on the internet and say, but that is also art. Because, why? Because it got my attention. And that is an art form. Companies spend millions and millions of dollars to get our attention and to keep our attention. That's an art form. So it might take a Leonardo to get my attention in one moment, and it might just take some squiggly line that doesn't make sense but still gets my attention. This is also art. To say, well, no, you can't compare, you know, you cannot compare Jean-Michel Basquiat to Raphael. This is true, but the history of art says we don't need to continue to compare people to Raphael. We have enough people who have broken hearts because they were never going to compare it to Raphael. So we have to keep changing what is Raphael for each generation to say now, for me, Jean-Michel Basquiat is not an accident of art history. It's something that art history had to have to create itself. To say now, this is where it is, you know, and it's now going full circle back to almost the caves of Lascaux in France, where you still have these bold and brave expressions of art in a different form, speaking to a different time. So, you know, the times suggested that that we're living in now says we don't need a lot of Leonardos now. We need the people who are coming forth now and saying, this is what art is now. This is kind of what I've always felt, you know, a part of, and you know, a part that exists in a split world, a split personality between always being true to following the tradition of form and function and mutating form and function, on the other side that just says there is no form or function. Just follow the fly across the room. Just follow where your interest is.
Like walking on a razor's edge, but she kissed me and she put it there. Got me rapping like a really long, and she makes me run 100 pounds. But she kissed me and she put it there. She kissed me and I'm going around. I was still a boy. And your mama and a woman's toy. She kissed me and she put it there. Because she kissed me and she put it there. Because she kissed me and she put it there. Yeah, because she kissed me. Because she kissed me. She kissed me all over. She kissed me on my body. Because she kissed me. Because she kissed me. And put it there. Grazie, Arizona. Thank you for coming tonight. It's a pleasure to see you. Sometimes it's assumed, that we're anti-industry or anti-market, and it's not. It's just that, there's a saying in sports that the great athletes learn how to let the game come to them. The idea being that if you're Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, if you were Pele, if you were Maradona, you understood that at some point the game would have to come through you. And this became a cliche in American sports, is that, the great athletes understand that they don't have to throw themselves around the court. They don't have to throw themselves around, if you're Roger Federer, you understand you don't have to play every point like it's your last point. You trust the pace, you trust the rhythm, and you trust that at some point when the game gets big, the other person gets a bit smaller, and you become more natural because this is your game. So you don't have to, the idea being, you don't have to run around looking or finding your game. If you just trust your rhythm and trust where you are, the game will find you. This is the way I came up. I didn't make music that was chasing the market. I just made music that was chasing me. And if you're lucky, you have a company that allows what you're doing to define the market, because it's easy to say, oh, this isn't commercial. The reality is what's commercial is what they say is commercial. The reality is what is commercial is whatever we're interested in at any given moment. So if the people are interested, if a record company or a promotion company is interested in marketing it, then it becomes commercial. Just by definition of the fact that, there is no fixed definition of what is commercial. Just one form is commercial today, a new form is commercial tomorrow, just because we've heard it and liked it. And so now everybody will more or less try to pursue that form for a while, or that sound. So that's just the nature of what, so there is no fixed definition what isn't commercial. So, there are artists who are convinced, who are hypnotized into chasing the market, always trying to find where the market is. And
And it's like the basket is fixed, and so you've always got to hit the shot, you know? Or you can just always be willing to invent your own market. And invent a type of game where wherever you shoot, the basket is gonna go to meet your shot. And it's a philosophy of if you really want to be a winner in life, the shortcut, but the most difficult thing to do at the same time, is to stop playing by everybody else's rules and invent your own rules. And it only makes sense to invent rules that you can win. So it's like when you're playing a video game. If I just want to play the game just to relieve my mind and take my mind somewhere else, I'm gonna always play at the level I can win. You know, I'm not gonna choose to play at the most difficult level if I just want to relax and put my mind somewhere else. If I want to be challenged, that's different. But if I just want to relax, I choose the level I know I can win. But this is the secret of the game of life, is if you're willing to choose to create your own rules and understand that you can win at your own rules, you bring your life closer to you. You bring your market closer to you. You bring the idea that you have the right to create your own market to you. So it is to say that I go to the farmer's market. I grow my own tomatoes. I pick them, I put them in a basket, and then I go to the market and say, would you like these tomatoes? It's just as commercial as if I was taking my tomatoes to a record company. But it's commercial by my definition. It's commercial by my faith, and I think that I have the right to create what I think is my contribution to the market, and it becomes the market. So, you know, this is the one thing, you know, a lot of people, you know, think independent artists are anti-corporate. I mean, the bottom line is, if you're looking to get, you know, support from your publisher, if you're looking to get support from a radio station, you're still part of the corporate world. It's just choosing to define for oneself what is and isn't corporate. Because once you become a part of the system, you do feel that, and you've contributed to the system, you feel that you have a right to define what the system is. You know, most of the artists are not anti-corporate. They're just fighting for a bigger voice in what is projected to the public as to what the music, what the art form is. And, you know, it's easy to paint us as like, you know, anti-this or anti-industry, and we're not. We're very industrious people who basically felt that it was time to grow up and support our own sense of what industry was and to take advantage of our sense of industry. Because success is not usually an accident. It does usually find people who have been willing to put in a tremendous amount of work into what they're doing.
For me, so go slow and take it easy. It's been a long time for me, so go slow and take it easy. A hashtag 10:30, I recommend we begin. Running around like a squirrel in a treehouse world, chasing pearls. Like Marie Antoinette, I judge my cake by the piece I get. I don't want to lose my head. I want to lose my mind.
If you come up, if you look a certain way, if you sound a certain way, someone says, well, you know, you sound like a bit like Otis Redding, so you should be doing this. And the problem is everybody sees you the way they see you, and they imagine you the way they imagine you. And you can get stuck in these situations where, you know, you're trying to please other people's vision of what they see you as. And this is the price for most people pay for the support of people in the industry. You know, I remember when I first came through living in Germany, there was a producer who was absolutely certain that I was the perfect cross between Grace Jones and Billy Idol. You know, at that particular time, I was young enough that my vision of myself hadn't completely come to maturity. So, you know, you are listening to some guy go, oh, Grace Jones and Billy Idol, I see it. You go, okay, because if you think that's your ticket, or that's your bridge, you know, across the water, then you take this, you know. But of course, by the time I was old enough to see what it was that I was, then nobody else's vision had a chance to compete with mine. I was able to live out mine. But it never stops, because you'll still come across the next person who sees what you've already done and still imagine, yes, but you can now do this, and I still see you as a bit of this, and some earth, wind, and fire, you know. And it's like, this is where you fight with the marketplace that says, I can only see black boys a certain way. Okay, I only offer these spaces for black boys like you, okay? And I don't recognize that you're mixed race, because I'm not yet ready to recognize that there's a category that I have to pay attention to, merits its own consideration. Meaning that this person is going to be a bit of this and a bit of that. That's just the reality of, you know, some of his fathers were over here, some of his fathers were over there, and that's just the reality of what he's gonna feel. And he's gonna feel a sense of entitlement towards, from both of them, from both of those places. So, you know, I like many of people before me, had to rebel against the idea of, this is what a black artist is. And I've never in my life dreamed of being a black artist. Because growing up in America, I knew what that meant. That meant that what you were was very fixed and defined, and limited to somebody else's perception of what has already happened. Not what is creating itself in the moment now, and is ever creative. The phoenix that will never die, because as soon as it burns out one place, it springs to life in another. That's the space that we had to fight for. And I can remember really early in my career having a conversation with Master Prince, where he basically said that your enthusiasm towards being able to sustain this privilege, you might need to reconsider at some point, because basically he was saying, we can't compare ourselves to the rock guys because they live under a different law. The law is different for us, and the expectations are different for us. So, you know, it's like you get that one slip and it's alligators. It's not like, okay, let's come up with a new plan to reinvigorate them in the marketplace. You get your shot, that's it. And, you know, and so everything else you pretty much have to do yourself. And unfortunately, he was very correct in what he was saying. But the point is that the thing that I understood needed to be represented in the marketplace, I understood that Prince had played his role, others had played their role before, Hendrix had played his role, but as soon as they come, they get rid of them. Because it's like what Christianity did with Christ. As soon as they got rid of him, then they say, okay, now we'll make him a mascot for the situation. But while he was alive, he was dangerous. And, you know, it was the understanding that, okay, you don't have permission, the corporate permission is not given for you to create a new type of black artist. You're just gonna have to do it. And, you know, it's like that cliche that it's easier to ask forgiveness than to ask permission. So you do it because the marketplace says, I'm not ready for that. And you says, but that's not true. Because if I'm ready for it, and I'm also you, I'm also the market, then it's not true that you're not ready for it. You just want to resist, you're just the resistance. And so you have to become this, you have to become this artist. And it's always the challenge to become the artist that you're dreaming of now.
We could be more than friends. I'm just talking. We could be moving in somewhere. I've known you for a while. I'm just talking. We always reconcile somehow. We are different people. We are different people. We are different people. But we're the same. A cool breeze is coming over me. A landslide
Miss Keys. Hello, Miss Crow, I see you. We'll make a family. Just talking, I'm just talking. Responsibility, don't worry me. Oh, woman, I love your ways. I'm just talking, praying for all the love we say. We are different people. We are different people. We are different people. We're the same. A cool breeze is coming over me, and the landslide is moving earth under my feet. Pandora whistles through the trees. Hello, Miss Jones. Hello, Miss Keys. Hello, Miss Crow, I see you. Two wrongs don't make a right. I'm just talking, but two wrongs make for a damn good fight. Maybe we'll find it hard. I'm just talking, but I'll do my part if I have your heart. We are different people. We are different.